The charity Board Gamer is made possible by publishers like 25th Century Games. Take a look at the store in the link down below, and stay tuned for a little clip after the show. Hey folks, welcome to the Meeples of Joy podcast. This is episode number 7. This is one of those podcasts where we talk about games, we talk about the things that we've been doing. We also talk with some amazing guests, and I'm going to pass it over to the wonderful and amazing as well, Chelsea, who is what I like to call the encourager of chaos.
Of course I am. I'm Chelsea, and you guys can find me on Chelka's Corner. And I love enticing Chris to do, crazy stuff and then walk away. Just light the fire and walk away. And I'm passing it on to Justin.
If you're lighting the fires, I'm the one back here putting them out. I'm Justin from Play Games Spread Joy, and it's of course a joy to deal with your shenanigans every week. But Chris, do you want to introduce our guests for the week?
Yeah, we have a wonderful and loving couple that joined with a bunch of their friends, basically pursuing video, audio, visual, just amazing content. You can hear their podcast basically every Monday is the time that I listen to it when I'm working. And also they have some fun little things at the end of each episode where they'll usually talk about some show that they've been watching. I remember listening to all the Hawkeye spoilers, which is always nice to be able to hear other people's opinions on different shows. But we have the wonderful Kevin and Melissa Delp of the Tantrum House. Hello.
Hello, glad to be here.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, so tonight we're going to be talking, of course, about Tantrum Con. It's a convention that's going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina this year, which I am very fortunate. Beth and I and the kids, we're going to go down there. It's kind of like a little celebration for us as a family to just enjoy that time, to kind of get into gaming and bring our family to it. Most of the time when I go to conventions, I'm not able to go out to that, but we're going to ask some questions, of course, of Tantrum Con and of Kevin and Melissa. And we're going to talk about the convention as well, just so that we know what is going to be happening and some fun things, because there's a lot of neat stuff, including one of my favorite people who's also a comedian who's going to be doing a show Friday night at the convention. So so I will start with a couple questions. Now, of course, Justin and Chelsea will ask as well, but yeah, so I know I'm excited. I don't know why.
It seems like you're really excited.
I don't know.
I think
maybe.
You may be leading this interview tonight, Chris. How excited you are. I'll just sit back and be ready to reel you back in.
Well, it's a blessing. It's a blessing when you get to meet people that you've interacted with, of course, before. And meeting. I remember meeting, of course, Will back in PAX U 2019. Him and Ryan were there, and then being able to meet Kevin and Melissa. I think I met Melissa. I think it was Origins 2019. She was there with Sarah. And then just, being able to constantly interact with these people. They're encouragers. They are just, it's kind of like being a part of a family when you actually get involved with them. So very thankful for that. So I'm going to stop gushing now. And I'm going to actually ask questions. One of the big questions, though, I think a lot of people would love to hear about is just how Tantrum House kind of came about. Now, you all live around the South Carolina area. And I'm guessing, was it meeting in college, or how did you all meet and become friends and then say, hey, let's make this a team effort?
Yeah, so actually Tantrum House began back in 2014. And Melissa and I were not a part of Tantrum House when it originally began. I heard about it. We were connected through friends. And there were 4 other couples. And I said, hey, if there's ever room in Tantrum House, I would love to be a part of what you're doing. They didn't have any room back then. They were just brand new. About 6 months later, one of the guys decided that he wanted to go to China, and they didn't really work out for him to stay on. So they said, hey, would you guys like to join? So we joined in early 2015. So the company was still pretty new back then. And the whole goal for Tantrum House, this is a little inside knowledge, the whole goal was not to be content creators. Our whole goal was to be publishers back then. Our goal was to create board games, like all our favorite board games out there. that we have, and we created.
Yeah, I would say maybe the goal was designing games, and then we put one on Kickstarter and realized all the work that went into publishing it, self-publishing it, and decided we didn't want to do that anymore.
We did fulfill a Kickstarter back in 2016 called Steam Court. It's a sort of card trick-taking game, and we failed the first time and then relaunched it and was successful the second time. But through all that trial and hardship, all the back end stuff that you don't really know about, but you receive the game finally in the mail, the manufacturing and the shipping and all that. We said we just really like the video creation side, which we had started back then because we wanted to share more about our love of board gaming. So the initial concept was to create a community around board games that would lead into publishing, and then just that creating of the community sort of just kept going through creating content like reviews and playthroughs and stuff.
Yeah, I've noticed that the community aspect is very big. Whenever everybody was watching maybe one of the clips, like just even the intro, you have this feeling like you're being welcomed into the doors of your house almost. Of course, it's a larger space in the video intros, but everybody kind of gets a little spotlight to them, and you're actually able to see who they are. And sometimes you get to see some of the kids, like Liam and all them. But it's always fun just to kind of see what you all have been doing. I mean, you all have worked actually on some games too. Like, didn't you work on something with Time Stories at some point?
Yes, we did a scenario for Time Stories. It was actually back when it first came out. They had a demo kit online and basically said, hey, if you design a scenario and you want to send it to us, we may look at it. Kevin and I really enjoyed Time Stories, so we got together over Christmas and really hashed out the storyline.
That was back in like 2015.
Yeah, it was way early, right after Time Stories came out. And then did some play testing, of course, with the rest of Tantrum House, and even mailed copies. Kevin cut all these cards because, Time Stories has a lot of cards, and he found like stock images to put on them. So eventually we sent it off to Space Cowboys and didn't hear anything for a couple of years.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then they finally said, yeah, we chose your scenario, and we're gonna create the scenario, which was amazing news. And by that time, more scenarios had come out, and we found out that our scenario was actually going to be created for they have the white cycle and the blue cycle. Not sure if you're familiar too much with Time Stories, but the blue cycle was the sort of second wave of Time Stories, and our scenario is sort of going to launch that new cycle. So
yeah, they did a lot of development. To take it from the white cycle to the Revolution's blue cycle.
Very cool. Now I have to ask this question. This is one that you're of course a married couple.
Yes.
So how have board games benefited both your marriage, and how have you brought out more competitiveness towards each other when you're playing games?
We actually don't play a lot of 2-player only games. I like to play more multiplayer games where it's not just the two of us combating each other.
So yes, we do play a lot of games, and we will play 2-player just to get the sort of how the game plays, because we're play testing a lot of games. I would say some of the things that sort of come out in us, Melissa is more of a thinker, more of a...
Okay, so I take a long time on my turns.
She takes a long time. So the patience that I have to deal with on a regular basis, I do have to work on that very, very strongly.
And I try to think faster sometimes.
So there is a balance, and
yeah.
you're using good choice words to keep yourself out of trouble, Kevin. So that's good. No, so tell us about
we
Tantrum
do
Con.
also.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say we do like to play mystery deduction type games. So we do well with the escape room type games or Chronicles of Crime.
Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, co-op games that are more adventure story, like Lord of the Rings, Journeys of Middle Earth, things like that. We enjoy playing together.
Gotcha. Yeah, I enjoy playing the cooperative games. I think that's kind of what got me back into the hobby. Was I was so used to being into competitive games, and then college came and I was like not doing games, and then it was I was invited to a church game night, and it was a cooperative game that kind of got me into it, called Pandemic. It's some small game.
Some
nobody's
small
ever heard
game.
of. Yeah, something like that. So you've got this awesome convention coming up now. It's called Tantrum Con. When is it? Where is it? I mean, I've kind of mentioned where it is already, but
Sure.
but how did that come about? Like, what made you say, okay, let's now do, okay, we've looked at doing board games. We've been doing this amazing content. We've been building this community. What then said, okay, well, why a convention after that?
Yeah, so TantrumCon itself is February 24th through 27th, so just a little less than a month from now, or about a month from now, and it is in Charlotte, North Carolina. You can find out more information at TantrumCon.com. And Melissa, why did we start TantrumCon?
I think this was Will's brainchild. So Will and Sarah actually did work for a while with a company that ran homeschool conventions. So they had a lot of the knowledge of running it from the back end. And we partnered with someone, Monica, who does a lot of convention running. So she's able to do a lot of the heavy lifting with getting the contracts and a lot of the organization, so we can kind of play to our strengths for the convention.
Yeah, so everyone has their sort of jobs in Tantrum House for Tantrum Con, but Monica, we would refer to as our convention manager, because we really couldn't do it without her.
So what are your specific roles for this convention?
Yeah, mine specifically, I work a lot with the publishers, the exhibitors, the sponsors. Since I deal a lot with communication in my regular communication with Tantrum House, it just fit very well for that, because we'll have right now, I think we have 9 or 10 exhibitors, Queen Games, Keymaster Games,
Grand
Gamers Guild. Yeah, so there's a few off the top of my head. Melissa.
My area is working with the GMs, so Game Master volunteers, getting them set up in the schedule, suggesting potential games that our attendees might want to learn how to play. Anything kind of game teaching related. I'm over the game library, so more of the teaching aspect.
Here's a good question. In regards to teaching, what have been some of the best approaches when it comes to teaching a game? Because I know you all have I think, is it Monday nights? Is it the game nights that you usually have?
Yeah, Monday nights.
Mm-hmm. Now with teaching though, what have been some great approaching to teaching new games to people that maybe have not gotten into the hobby as much?
I think part of it depends on the situation. Teaching at a convention is going to be a little different than teaching at a game night or teaching in your home with some of your close friends. I think part of it starts with matching the right game to the right people. If it's someone who is new to the hobby or doesn't have a lot of experience, trying to pick a game that isn't too overwhelming for that person, and then kind of giving the information in little chunks, figuring out, are they the type that wants to hear a little bit, try around to get a feel for it, or do they want to know all 20 minutes of the rules up front? Different people learn different ways and have different preferences.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Yeah, I know with some conventions, you're teaching a game within, most of the time, if you're working at the booth, you're trying to teach it in like about 2 to 5 minutes, where you're kind of like, this is the gist, this is how it plays, now go buy it real quickly. I've got this line of people at Gen Con. So, but yeah, no, I completely understand that. Now you've got some really cool events going on. And one of the things I thought was really excited is something called Tournameals.
Yeah, I think I don't know, Will coined that term, or someone in the team coined the term, probably Will. He's very creative in his terminology. He'll just make up terms all the time. But anyway, Tournameal is a way for, everyone's got to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but why don't we play more games around that? So why don't we put those two things together, eating and playing games? And that's where sort of the birth of Tournameals came in, where we actually combine a publisher who wants to sponsor, they want to talk more about their games, show off their games more, and they can do it in this format where the best scenario is like where Bezier Games wanted to show off New York Slice, and we did a pizza party, and we basically taught people how to play New York Slice, and then we gave away like 10 copies. Every table got a copy of the game. And another last year or 2 years ago was Winner Winner Chicken Dinner from 25th Century Games, and gave away copies of Winner Winner Chicken Dinner, taught the game. So I think that's another thing. One of the ones that we're excited about, there's a lot of them that we have, but one of them is Stonemeyer Games is sponsoring Rolling Realms. And so we are going to teach people how to play Rolling Realms and give away some copies of that. There's Longshot the Dice Game is one of them. Boy, off the top of my head, do you remember the other ones, Melissa?
Let's see. Oh, putting me on the spot. Right. I think we're doing Mystic Paths from Arnar Games on Thursday night. Kevin's bringing up.
Yeah, might as well bring it up here.
The website.
We have a Scrap Racer from Queen Games. The Alp is doing Food Fight. We thought, why not? Food Fight. We probably won't have a real food fight, but
come on, real food fight sounds great.
So there's going to be 2 Rooms and a Boom, and that's an evening, like a late night one, and then so lots of things like that.
Yeah,
So-
and for
so-
anyone,
Go
I
ahead.
was going to say, for anyone who's concerned about eating and playing at the same time, usually we let people pretty much finish their meal and then we'll play.
Maybe.
I was gonna say I'd like to see curmudgeon come out and just see people insult each other over a meal
Right.
with Grant Lyon there as well, which you are having Grant
Yeah.
Lyon as just awesome comedian. He just had his album came out 2 years ago. He's finally being able to celebrate it actually in person, I think in San Francisco. But he's gonna be there, which is gonna
Yes.
be amazing.
So he has created a board game sort of themed comedy show. I'm sure he's done like little shows, but he hasn't been able to perform it in like a big event yet. And Tantrum House, Tantrum Con will be the first big event where he'll be sort of showing off his new show. It's going to be a VIP dinner for anybody that wants to come and pay the money to join that dinner and show basically with Grant Lyons. Excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. Plus, Grant's just an awesome guy. Gotta love Grant Lyon, and he's funny as can be. Just any of his TikTok stuff and everything. But yeah, we've had him on. We've played a lot of games with him, and he taught us curmudgeon, and we insulted each other, and we had to make sure that we had the mature rating just because when we were doing our Twitch stream, because it got a little crazy, but it was fun.
Amanda told us last week and complained about that popping up on her stream stuff.
Oh yes.
We
Now,
did ask
Justin-
him for the since it's a family convention, we asked him to be a little bit more family friendly in his comedy show, and he assured us that he would be taking those words out of his show.
Yeah. You gotta take some of those words out of the cards too if you play curmudgeon with family.
I
too.
gotcha.
Oh yeah. All right, Justin, you have some questions?
Well, I think a lot of them were hit on, but so you kind of mentioned a lot of games are taught at the convention. You work with a lot of the GMs, and on average, about how many different games are taught at the convention, or like how many different, just in general, games are being played that you can come and learn?
Oh, wow. Well, we have Learn to Play events. Basically, people can sign up for going from about 9 a.m. to 9 or 10 p.m. During the really popular times, there might be 8 or 9, 10 games going on at once, to maybe about 3 events going on in non-popular times, or during meals, things like that.
Mhm.
We also have a play to win section. Envoy is going to be bringing a bunch of games, and sometimes we also add some in from Tantrum House. And I think last time it was about 100 games that people could play, sign on a form that they played it, and then at the end of the convention, we randomly pick someone from that form to walk away with the game. So those games people have to learn themselves, but they're there for everyone to play.
The other thing is we have a TantrumCon library of board games too that we bring that has over 1,000 games, maybe 2,000 games. And we actually talked as a team, since there's a lot of games that are pretty hot and recent that aren't even part of the library yet, we're going to bring to the convention so that people can play some of those newer games that are, or even prototypes that we might have, like Rolling Heights from AEG or things like that that are coming to Kickstarter that people might enjoy playing.
Yeah,
Nice.
that'd be a lot of fun. I'm still waiting for them. I remember listening to a podcast. You all were joking about how there's of course a game called Meadows, and you're just waiting for a game called Delp, which would be interesting.
I don't even know what our last name means, but you never know. We'll figure it out.
Something
How about you?
Dutch-ish.
How about you, Chelsea? You have any questions?
So I've never been to Tantrum Con, but it sounds to me like it is more of a playing games type of convention instead of like walking around and seeing product. Can you tell me a little bit more of what like that would looks like, or like a average day would look like with that? Is it just like play events, or what else kind of is going on like that?
Well, we do have a vendor hall.
Mhm.
It's fairly small with about 10 vendors. Most of them are game publishers, board game store. So it's going to be game related stuff. We do also have some artists that might have game related or pop culture related merchandise. There's miniature painting that people can sign up for. We have a guy named Terry Brown who is great with painting and really loves teaching it. So there are classes for beginners, there's classes for people who are a little bit more advanced, even a mini painting contest. I know that was actually a highlight of some of the people who never even thought about painting minis, but they brought their kids in, or they sat for an hour, and it was very relaxing for them to learn how to paint a miniature.
I would say though, for an individual, some people like to sort of plan out their day for like hour by hour. So there's ways for them to do that by signing up for different events. We even have like North Carolina state championships that are going on. So you could fill your whole day by signing up. Or if you're the type of person that just likes to be like a pickup game or something, and you're more the casual, happy-go-lucky, just walk into the room and be like, hey, what are you doing? Or something like that. We do have that, as Chris is raising his hand. They can't see you. Raise your hand, Chris. So we have signs that are like players wanted, players needed, or like
Teacher needed
for this, for this game. So we have big signs that people can put on their table so that people can feel welcome to join tables that aren't really like things that you're signing up for.
Sounds like a great way to experience a convention as a first time, or for anyone that hasn't been before, just actually getting to go and enjoy the gaming and making new friends, of course, meeting new people and learning new games. But that kind of hits on our topic today for our top 5 stuff, kind of either planning out games or just spur of the moment finding a game. Our topic tonight is top 5 games we have played at a convention, like either learned there for the first time, kind of your top 5 convention gaming experiences. So we'll give you a moment to think about that.
Mhm.
And Chris, do you want to talk about for a moment the charity that we're talking about this week?
Yes. So for the month of January, folks, if we have subscriptions, bits, all that stuff that we do, we are taking that payout and we're putting it back towards Brown House Community. It's an organization, the Brown House in Northport, Alabama. And what's great about that, their mission of the Brown House is one of proximity, community, opportunity. By living with those on the outskirts of society, we can better see and meet the needs that arise through a Christ-centric approach. And by walking together as equals, they strive to meet emotional, spiritual, and economic needs of the West Circle community. So some things that they do tutoring. They actually help out with food sensitivity. They also help out with having housing for kids that are in the NICU to actually have something for parents to stay in. But great organization. So we are supporting the Brown House during the month of January, and we will probably be doing another charity live stream, probably 24-hour charity live stream this year for that charity because of the hard work that they do. So,
well, hopefully you can think of some games that you've enjoyed playing at conventions. So what we'll do, we'll kind of start with the 3 of us, and then we'll jump to y'all, and if y'all have something that you want to add to the list, feel free. But if you can't think of something, don't feel like you have to add for every one we do. But we're gonna start with Chelsea this time, because apparently she had the hardest time coming up with the list.
Oh my God.
Either too many games to pick from or whatever it was. She only sent me 4 to begin with, and I had to kind of prod her for the 5th. So Chelsea, where do you want to start?
So I would say I just couldn't think of anything. I was like, oh my God, what have I played? What have I played? I know I play games, but I was just completely drawing a blank. So and these are not in any particular order, but Titania Ascending, I got a chance to play at Origins, and I had so much fun. And it literally came down to the very last card on the second phase that we were like, okay, we lost, but it was that very last card, the very last turn, and we ended up winning. And it was almost like magical, like everything like worked out, and we're like, oh, we can do this, we can win. And it was just two of us playing, and it was just such a great experience. The next day, my husband came, and I was like, oh, this is the game. And he's like, I talked so much about it that he knew the person I was playing with, just based on everything I had said about like the game. So.
And I believe when you played that was, of course, a prototype copy
Yes.
because it was pre-Kickstarter.
Yep.
I think we each had a game that we played at a con that was kind of pre-Kickstarter. Mine was actually, I got to learn Cascadia back in 2019 with the designer while they're still doing some play testing of it, kind of a few months before it was going to hit Kickstarter. So like that was one cool experience, is to kind of realize gaming conventions, you do more than just make new friends. You're sitting down, sometimes meeting designers just at a table, kind of showing off those brand new games, and sometimes even helping give feedback on those games. And so that's something I've enjoyed about conventions and gaming, is getting to learn Cascadia from Flat Out Games and AEG. Chris, I believe Kites that you learned was also in that same kind of.
Yeah, Kites from
That's coming out, man.
Yeah, I know. It's so like, I loved it. I loved it so much. Floodgate. I went to Floodgate's thing at PAX U and had a chance to get a taste of Kites. It's beautiful. It's Beth Sobel's artwork, which is just automatically, that's just draws you in right off the bat. But just the idea of actually a cooperative game where you're turning timers and you're having to communicate as quickly as possible to flip these timers over. And each timer is not the same in time. There's like a minute timer, a 30-second timer. And Blue, of course, has the shortest timer. And guess who was Blue? I was Blue. So of course, guess who lost the game for everybody else? Me. But it was a blast to play. It's one of those games that I highly recommend for people to be on the lookout for. I truly have enjoyed a lot of the games that have been coming from Floodgate. There's another game that's coming out as well, which is kind of like almost like a little trivia style party game that they're working on with Storm Chaser Games. But so good. Kites.
So that brings us to Kevin and Melissa. Is there, I guess, your first pick?
So my first pick is a gaming experience at a convention. So I don't know if you played Century Spice Road or not, from Emerson Matsuuchi, but he was showing off the prototype of that back, I guess it was probably 2015, 2014. And he was showing off the prototype of what would become Century Spice Road. It was a lot different, not a lot different, but there was differences in the camels and all this kind of stuff. But I just remember the enjoyment I had from that game. And when it finally came out, I think it was one of the first games that I had seen a prototype that eventually became like a real game. And it was just an enjoyable experience to see that sort of process, and then eventually play the game, which I thoroughly enjoy still.
I'm going to go in a slightly different direction, and we do a lot of volunteering at conventions for CGE. And so we are demoing and teaching a lot of games, and I really enjoy that. One of my favorite ones to teach is Galaxy Trucker. It's a very chaotic game, but I love to kind of, once they're flying through space, I'm narrating the cards and how their navigator is so bad that they flew into this meteor storm, and then, now they're in a combat zone, and stardust. So it's just a fun game to walk people through.
I get that because I work in the booth a lot, like we all work in the booth a lot, teaching games at conventions. So getting to like see the joy on people's faces as they learn a new game is of course great. One on my list is Smile from Z-Man Games. I didn't teach it in a booth, but it's the first game I taught Chris. So the first time we met in person was Origins 2019. And that was one of the games I was carrying around with me, kind of teaching some different friends. And that was the first game we actually got to play together in person. So that it was kind of like one of the ones that had to make my list, because that kickstarted all this, getting us to be together, doing content together. So I could not have that on the list.
Now I feel horrible because I didn't put it on my list.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're
It was
good.
number 6, Chris. It was number 6.
Oh yeah, it was
You've talked about it before for another topic, so
yeah. Actually, that's actually going to be on my on the video that I filmed for tomorrow for our Deep Thoughts Friday. So
oh, nice.
yeah.
Well, since it wasn't on your list for this podcast, what else is on your list?
Okay, so I grew up as a giant orchestra nerd. Like I would go to these little conferences with different groups and everything. And so one of the big things that we used to do a lot of time was we would sit around the room and we would play a game called Mafia. Now that was just a game that, you know, was a lot of fun. And then I got an experience of Werewolf at a convention, and I love Werewolf so much. I actually had the chance to play it also online with Ted Alspach and other people. Even I think it was Will and Sarah joined in one of those ones, and we had a blast. But yeah, it's one of those games that just brought back my memories of being this dorky cellist who would just gather around with his friends and just, you know, basically kill each other off and feel good about it and not have to worry about, you know, the complications. I highly recommend this for a family game, folks. So yeah, or a good church youth group game, Werewolf.
Chelsea, I don't know how to transition to one of your games from that, so I'll just let you pick. We can't hear you, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. The dogs are being a little extra. So,
good.
so I had gotten a copy of Dream Crush and I hadn't had a chance to play it, and I took it with me to Origins, and I ended up playing with a couple people I had knew before. I hadn't met in person, but I you know, interacted with them and I consider them friends, and then some new friends, and it was the best game ever. We had so much fun playing Dream Crush with, you know, it was a majority of people that I didn't know very well. So to be able to play a party game that you kind of have to like, you know, be like, oh, well, what would they choose and who would they potentially date? And we just ended up having a ton of fun. The table was full and it was like the highlight of the night.
I mean, I could tell you who to go with. You always go for Frodo Baggins. I mean, come on, Mr. Elijah Wood's in that game. So
Ooh, does he look creepy in that game?
yeah, he does. Oh.
So another one I had was the giant games that you can play at conventions, and some of my earliest memories were from Origins 2015. I played Flick 'em Up in a giant version. I mean, you don't know, Flick 'em Up is a dexterity flicking game. It was this cool. They did a cool job with the Western theme, and I enjoyed playing that. There was King of Tokyo. I think I played that year too, with the giant dice and giant monsters. They had, I think, Pompeii as a giant
volcano.
The giant volcano that you're throwing meeples in. They had, I didn't play it, but there was Catan there that was pretty stable. And I wanted to sort of plug TantrumCon again. There will be giant games at TantrumCon, so look forward to that.
So my game is, first off, I usually hate social deduction games.
I know where you're going.
But one year at Origins, we played Don't Mess with Cthulhu with some other content creators and a bunch of us from Tantrum House, and it was very enjoyable. It's a game where you can lie, and sometimes it's helpful to lie, but sometimes you just tell the straight truth, and that's also good. So it was one where I could choose the amount of deception that I wanted to play with during the game, and I really enjoyed that one. Lots of laughs and fun. And Ryan and I, probably the two worst social deduction people, pulled off an epic win as the cultists.
Nice. Well, talking about epic wins, the next game on Chris's list is one we have had an epic win on, but it was not at a convention, but I'm sure he had a great experience at the convention too. So you want to talk about that, Chris?
Yeah, just getting back into conventions. Like I just got back into board games back 2018. And so there's a little convention that is run by Travis from Queen Games called CharCon. So I went to that and had a chance to meet Evan from I forget what Blood on the Clock Tower's actual name is. Everybody just calls it Blood on the Clock Tower, basically.
It's the Pandemonium Institute.
Pandemonium Institute, yeah.
Yeah.
So Evan was there. He was teaching Blood on the Clock Tower, and I mean, I like Werewolf, but the one thing that when you're playing Werewolf is that elimination. Once you're eliminated, you're out of the game. You don't really get to do anything else. You're just kind of sitting there, or you're basically walking away because you're upset because you didn't get that role. You've been villager way too much. So what I've really enjoyed was Blood on the Clock Tower is just one of those games where, okay, you have a role, your role has a purpose, and you know it after death you still have a chance to vote. You still close your eyes like everybody else. You still don't know who the bad guy is, and that's kind of a nice thing about that. I do like that aspect of it. Yes, the game can be a little long. If you do it online, it's ridiculously long online playing it, but had a blast. And of course, in a game, Justin and I were the bad guys and we won, and it was really well done. I had a blast. So Blood on the Clock Tower, and I think it finally is coming out this year, so that's big.
Oh, that is big. Chelsea, I don't think you have anything that extreme, but I guess the closest one is probably you have kind of a more party style game on your list.
Yes, I will have to say I don't play social deduction games very often, so I didn't have anything on that category, but we played a game of Wavelength, and I'm not a huge party game person either, but this is definitely more of the experience. There was way too many people. It was supposed to be like a lower key night, and there was just so many people. So we like, okay, well, let's try Wavelengths because we can fit all these people and play. And it was just slightly chaotic.
Slightly?
It was slightly chaotic. We were people on the other team were like trying to take down their own team, and it was just kind of crazy, but at the same time so much fun. Like we were all laughing, we were all enjoying each other's companies, and we didn't necessarily know everybody there. Somebody told somebody else and turned into this big group of people.
That's somebody that told somebody else was Daryl Andrews. Everybody, if you
well, no, it started with you telling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
All
that's
right.
where
So,
it went.
so yes, I told one person. That person told Daryl Andrews, and Daryl Andrews told like Mike, and told like all these other people. All of a sudden, White Castle burgers are there. Everybody's
Yeah.
eating White Castle and playing a
Like a
ridiculous.
And
second
people are
unofficial
getting mad.
meetup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like mad at their teammates because they didn't get it. It was just, it was so much fun. It was complete craziness, but it was a great night.
For me, it wasn't the unofficial meetup. During actually our first official meetup that we hosted was at Gen Con this year, and I got to meet Seppi from Fight in a Box, and like he showed me all three of his main games. It kind of started with Squirrel or Die, which is super easy, then moved to Hedgehog Hop, and then we ended with Mouse, Cheese, Cat, Cucumber. They're all pocket games, but like it just built up. Like the four of us people, like none of us knew each other, and just hanging out, and we were laughing with each game. And at the very end, it was like Seppi just egging everyone on to like, oh, are you gonna do this? Because it's like that slight social deduction of like, wait, what is your role? And like getting to win with like the last possible card, and like Seppi actually egging me on to like press my luck to beat him was kind of the fun thing, like as the designer of the game, playing with him and learning it. So that was really fun. Kind of kicked off that meetup that we had at Gen Con, and just kind of showed how many different people could come together just to have fun for for the joy of gaming. So that meant a lot to me at that meetup. So what about y'all? What else is on your list?
So I remember playing Mysterium before it was Mysterium. It was the
I was going to talk about that
we
one.
could do it
We
together.
synced up.
Do it
We
together.
synced up.
So it was a good one. It was a good experience. So it was the Polish version was already available. I don't even know if I could say the name. Like it was a different name in Polish. I couldn't even say it. It wasn't called Mysterium. But Rodney Smith was there from Watch It Played, and he had a copy of this Polish version. He was sort of like secretly, like not secretly, but sort of showing it off to people. And we had an enjoyable time, him teaching us how to play and playing Mysterium together.
Yeah, I think it might have been one of our first conventions. We were a tiny channel. We maybe had 100, maybe 200 subscribers. So just the access you can have at conventions to media creators and designers and publishers, just the generosity in this community is amazing. And it was really nice of Rodney to take some time and teach us a game.
So in the same aspect of like continuing on with like just how many people we get to meet at conventions, that we have either met online beforehand or just that we've seen something about theirs. One game that I love already, but because I got to sit down and play it with Amanda Panda that we had on before already, we played Batman Love Letter from AEG, which is my favorite version of Love Letter, just because who doesn't love Batman?
Hold on, I didn't get to play this. When was this, and why didn't I play?
Yeah, so we found just a little bit of table space in the back corner of the meetup at PAX Unplugged, and they were actually already playing. And I walked up and like they had a seat and they let me play around, and it was just getting to sit down and actually play a game with some other content creators that like you don't necessarily get to play a lot of games at those meetups because we're just all just talking, and so just sitting down and relaxing for a moment at the meetup was a big deal too. I know Chris, I don't even think he sat down till the end of that meetup.
I did not play a single game other than Kites, I think, at PAX U. So
and I kept telling you, sit down,
I
relax.
know. I was in host mode. That's how I was. That's how I am. I know.
So what else is on your list, Chris?
All right.
From a convention you actually got to play a game at.
Yes. Okay. So a convention I forgot to play a game at. Okay. So Origins. Love Ray. Ray is an amazing content creator now working for CGE and doing Twitch streaming. Love Ray to death. However, Ray, if you're listening to this or watching this later, you're going down in our board game gauntlet. I'm just telling you now. But there was a game that she brought out, and it was called Pictomania. It's a cute drawing game where we're quickly grabbing at these numbers. We have these words and we have these numbers. So we've got a letter and we've got a number, and we have to draw whatever that letter and number coincide with. So it might be something like I'm drawing an asparagus. Well, somebody else is drawing a pencil. While somebody else is probably drawing something that looks like broccoli. So once you feel like you've figured out what, you've drawn all your thing, you think you figured out what everybody else has drawn, you can kind of, go ahead and, do your thing and grab the little tokens and stuff. And if you get it correct, or if somebody guessed yours correctly, you get to give away your negative points. So that way you don't have a negative score. And then if you guess correctly on other things, they're going to, of course, give you points for guessing theirs correctly. And whoever guessed the fastest correctly gets the higher points. So, and it goes over the course of basically 4 rounds, basically 4 parts of a sheet of paper, which I love that. And what's really cool is that when you fold up the paper at the end, you can actually kind of add the totals to the score, and right in the middle, write the actual total of everything. So it's well done. And of course, when you have a game that's drawing or a roll and write, what's one of the big things that you like having? Pencils. Not only does it come with the pencils, it comes with a pencil sharpener, which that's a big thing. I think that's, it's a small little touch, but it does make a difference when you can have something to quickly sharpen the pencil, because when you're drawing fast and ridiculously quick, lead's going to break. So, yeah.
Chelsea, I see 2 more on your list. One is not a fast game. The other I don't know as much about. You choose which one you want to go with.
So this one, it's a Root from Leader Games, I had left for Gen Con, and I believe we left like late Tuesday night. So on the Wednesday for Gen Con, the Kickstarter was fulfilling. I got delivered, and I was like, okay, well, this game, it literally just got delivered today. And we were hanging out at the hotel that we were staying at, and the demo team from Leader Games was sitting there, and they were setting up, and they must have seen the desperation in my face, because I just kept like staring. I was like, oh my God, there it is, there it is. And they're like, well, do you want to come over? Because we're practicing, and they let me play the whole game with them. And they were incredibly nice, because I mean, they were practicing to teach the next day, for the next couple days. And they just let a complete random stranger who just was like fangirling over this game join them. And they ended up just letting me play the whole game with them. And it was pretty awesome. So I was beyond excited.
Love that. What about y'all? Do you have another game on your list, or?
Yeah, so one of the ones that was like sort of a cool thing that happened at a convention at Simon's booth was they were showing off the new Tebaru system, which is a sort of electronic way of connecting a game across the internet. So you can play a game and then someone else around the world could connect to that same game, and you could play the same game at the same time.
Using physical components.
Yeah, using physical components, not just like over like an online thing. And they were showing that off, and I just heard that I believe that Tebaru system is coming to crowdfunding sometime this year. So I'm excited about that.
On the theme of fast-paced games, quite a few years ago, a game called Word Slam was really big at the conventions. It's 2 teams, and basically each team has a clue giver, and they have the same word that they're trying to get their team to guess. But the clue giver has, I don't know, about 100 different cards with words on them. They might be nouns or actions, different types of things. And you're putting these cards on a tray to try to get your team to guess the word, but your team can also hear what the other team is guessing. So it's really fast-paced, high energy. I think I played it at a convention with like 15 or 20 other people. Some of them were media creators and designers and just, attendees. And it got very high energy as people were trying to figure out what some of these hard clues were, using printed cards and trying to make connections.
Nice. So, Chris, the last game on your list is somewhat similar one, that you're giving clues and trying to make connections with your team. Do you want to talk about it?
I mean, I think Chelsea talked about it really well, which was Wavelength. That's just one of those games I had a blast. This was Origins, like we discussed. It was the very next day after the meetup. So that was, I think, Friday night. Everybody just came upstairs, and we were just playing. Or it was Saturday night. So everybody just kind of came upstairs, and we just had fun. It was one of those games that, it works really well when you have the right people playing the game. There's a lot of hilarity that just basically ensues. But yeah, Wavelength.
Nice. And Chelsea, what was the 5th on your list?
So I forgive me if I butcher the name. Chimera Station by Tasty Minstrel Games. I saw it at my first con, which was PAX Unplugged. The first year they had it, and I didn't get to try it. It was slightly overwhelming, and I didn't know what I really wanted to do, and I missed out on it. So I was like, well, I want to play it, but I want to buy it, but I want to play it beforehand. And then the following year I went to Gen Con, and they had a ticketed event where we could sit down and play. And we were able to, all 4 of us that went together were able to get tickets for it, and we ended up playing. And I was it was very satisfying that after waiting months and months to try this game, I got to finally try it, and I liked it, and I immediately bought it when I got home.
Mhm.
But it was just, I remember just feelings. I was like, oh, finally. And like we almost didn't get tickets, so there's all this like logistical stuff, and it was just the feeling of relief when I got to finally play it. I'm never gonna forget that.
So the last game on my list, or kind of experience, I won't forget. I got to play Champions of Midgard with all the expansions at a 5-player count at one game convention, but it kind of falls back into the kind of just the conventions where you can just play a lot of games. And it would have only occurred if, because of that style of convention, where I found some other people that were just willing to play a game that I wanted to play, all complete strangers, but we all really enjoyed the experience because that's what we met at the table to do, to play games and come together in the same hobby. And so like that experience showed me that, yeah, you can come together with strangers and still have a great time and enjoy a great game as well. Of course, Champions of Midgard is a great game and I enjoy it, but it was more the experience of just, hey, people were willing to play with complete strangers. And that's what a lot of these convention experiences are about, is just the joy of gaming and how we can come together. So what would be the last, or I don't want to say the last experience because we all have more than 5, but what would be the last one you want to talk about on this with us?
Yeah, so one that sort of just really is a memorable one for me is this past Gen Con, just a few months ago. We were playing a game called So Clover, which is a very fun, interactive word association game. And it was just a fun experience because of the memories that are created. And I'll give one example. One of the guesses or one of the clues was about mustard. And I really like mustard on my sandwiches. And so I don't remember the exact clue, but mustard had associated with it. So I just assumed that was the right answer. And then from that point forward, for the rest of the convention, everyone was like, "You want some mustard, Kevin?" And I was like, "Sure."
Yes, and I think we were actually playing that game and Pinpoint, where
Oh yeah.
Pinpoint is a newish game coming out from Navu Games, and it's kind of a scale association. It reminds me a little bit of Wavelength, and it was something about genies granting wishes, and on a scale from 1 to 100, how good of a wish would something be? Katie was the clue giver, and she had a certain number she needed people to hit, so she gave a clue that she thought would steer people to that number, and she said unlimited mustard as the
that
clue.
sounds amazing.
And so Kevin gave it a really good score, and she was like, "What?" And so so that's how Kevin got associated with mustard, and then that carried over into the So Clover, where if it was like mustard and yellow, the clue ended up being Kevin, because of course Kevin and mustard go together. And Kevin did end up sending a picture to the team of our refrigerator, which has like 12 different mustard flavors in our refrigerator.
Like now the question is, what's your favorite mustard out of mustards? I mean, me, it's Dijon mustard.
Yeah, I like the garlic stone ground mustard.
I usually go spicy brown.
Spicy brown's
And then
good.
Chelsea's over here shaking her head no, and I agree with her. And we're both not mustard people.
I
Nope.
made him something that had like a mustard cream sauce on top, and I had no clue he didn't like mustard. And then afterwards, like I'm taking his plate, the meal's gone, but everything mustard related is scraped onto the plate. I'm like,
not all of it. I did eat it, but I was like, that's a lot. I tried to be nice and like, not like just break it off. Oh, nasty. I was like.
Do you guys like any kind of condiments, like horseradish or ketchup or mayonnaise or anything like that?
It all depends on what you're having it with, of course. But
right.
Yeah, no issues, just with no mustard.
Yeah.
Like no. Or pickles.
Melissa loves her pickles.
I do. The bread and butter pickles, the sweet ones. I love those.
Nope, not for me. No.
Nope.
Now, if
Hard
We're
pass on that one
working.
too.
now I like them if they're fried though. I like fried
Ooh,
pickles,
fried
like fried
pickles.
slices, like
Ooh,
dipped
that
in like
does
a
sound-
spicy ranch.
Yes.
Sounds good,
yes.
Chris.
Yeah.
Well,
it's good
it's
stuff.
we've all talked about 5 experiences at this point, and it sounds like we're all trailing off too. So are there anything else you want to say about Tantrum Con or Tantrum House in general before we wrap all this up?
Yeah, we'd love for you to join us at Tantrum Con in Charlotte, North Carolina, February 24th to 27th. You can check it out at TantrumCon.com. And if you can't make it there, that's okay. Join us on YouTube. We're always pushing out videos and live playthroughs. Actually, our team, most of the other people in Tantrum House are actually playing a game live right now on YouTube. So we sort of had to split the focus and join you guys here. But we're always doing lots of content.
Oh yeah. I know. I was talking to Chantel. I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna try to steal somebody so that way I can spend time with them." Yeah.
Well, we're glad that we're able to still you guys to join us tonight.
It was a joy being on the
Absolutely.
show. Yeah.
Well, folks, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna wrap up. But once again, I want to say special thank you to Kevin and Melissa Delp. Check them out at tantrumhouse.com. Also, YouTube. Check it out. YouTube.com/tantrumhouse. Amazing content creators, just beautiful people all around together, and they truly do spread joy. So we want to say a special thank you to them. But I'm Chris.
I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Justin, and thank you for joining us at the Meeples of Joy podcast.
What are you doing? You're using the wrong shaker. Oh, hey, Gary. Yeah. No. Shelly took the shaker with her when she left. So I've got my thermos. I'm just kind of using that, and maybe if somebody got that alcohol order right next time. What did you say? Nothing. Yeah, I've got those drinks. I got that martini right here for table 62. Got it. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I'll get some. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks. Luckily, you don't have to be a bartender to enjoy games like On the Rocks, Kingswood, and Kohaku, all from 25th Century Games. Highly recommend it. Link down below. Oh, and don't forget that 80 rolls of silverware before the end of your shift.
Hey, thanks for watching our video.
If you like what you saw here, go ahead and hit that little like, subscribe, the little bell thingamabobber, you know the thing, and watch some of our videos. Maybe one that's maybe up here, or maybe down there, or over there, or down there. I don't know where they are, but thank you all. Remember, when we can gather at the table, we can do the same for a good cause. Bye.
Bye.